Okay, welcome everybody to the April housing market update. It is a very, very interesting time, not just for real estate, but for world economics. We are all hearing about tariffs and how it's impacting supply chains and equity markets and bond markets and all this stuff. And it has a lot of relevance to the real estate housing market. So let's dig in, show you kind of what's happening at a local level first, as far as transactions go, pricing goes, average sales price ratios, so on and so forth. And then we're going to talk a little bit about mortgages today and how everything's being impacted with mortgages by none other than Amy Green. So locally, what I'm showing you here on the screen is data from Orange County, New York, and Sussex County, New Jersey. It's an interesting data set because it spans two different states, counties that border one another. It's a pretty good data sample and a good indicator of really what's going on regionally in the New York and New Jersey area. So to me, the most positive, there's a lot of negatives that we could focus on, but let's try to focus on the positives. So the one big positive, if you look at this red dot here, which indicates 2025, it's actually up over the last couple of years, which is great news. And this is new listings, right? Which is what we need to get going in order to get the number of transactions rolling again. So the fact that inventory is up even just a little bit over the last couple of years, that's a really good thing. All right. So I just love that it's not down from previous years. So that's a good indicator. Here's where it gets a little bit tougher. And this is really remarkable and just shows how challenging this market really is. If you look at the peak 2021, 750 units sold between these two counties in 2021 versus where we are today. I don't know the exact number off the top of my head, but it's somewhere between, let's call it 270, something like that. This represents a 225% decrease in the number of transactions from 2021 to 2025. That is an epic fall, right, in the market. And it just shows how hard it is. So if you're a real estate agent, if you're a mortgage lender, a home inspector, a photographer, anybody that's tied to the real estate transaction, real estate attorneys, title companies, so on and so forth, here's what I have to say to you. If you're still in business, my hat is off to you. This has been an epic fall of historical proportions, and it has not been easy. So if you're still in it and you're still viable and you're still making money and you're still breathing and walking and making it happen in this industry, my hat is off to you. And my word to you is keep going, because things are going to get better. I don't think that from a transaction standpoint, it's going to get much worse than it is right now. I feel like we are at the bottom. And I know that because other areas around the country are improving, right? It's just this Northeast corridor that we're in, and specifically here in New York and New Jersey, that for whatever reason, we're just behind. We're lagging the rest of the country right now. So better days are ahead. Things are picking up. I already feel personally in my own personal business, things are definitely picking up here in April. It's been very busy. And I've been talking to a lot of other agents who have boots on the ground that do a lot of transactions, and they feel things are really picking up now too. We had a really cold, brutal winter that had something to do with it. But needless to say, hang in there. Better times are ahead. Sales price. It's a true supply and demand issue right now, right? There's just not enough supply to meet the demand, so it just keeps pushing price up. And it's really remarkable to see how price just really has consistently increased year over year, with one exception of 23 and 22 from January through May. It didn't really increase, but that's really the only 4-month segment out of the last 6 years where we haven't seen consistent price increases. So that's interesting. Now, you'll notice that the variance between 24 and 25 is closing a little bit. When you look at the variance between 22 and 23 and 24, there was a huge variance there, right? So it's a little bit tighter now. It's not as large of a variance as it was in previous years. So I think we're starting to see the pace of pricing slowing down. And last month, we spent a lot of time talking about this shadow default inventory that's taking place within the FHA, where there's a lot of mortgages in default that aren't necessarily hitting the books because the government's been kind of repackaging those loans and taking the default payments and tacking them on the back end and not considering them defaulting loans, but they are out there. So there are signs of breakage in our marketplace here in the US, and I do think that that is going to lead to, cooling of pricing. Days on market, you can see here, is rising a little bit. Okay, so the higher the days on market, the more of a buyer's market it is. The lower, the more of a seller's market. So you can see 2025 is not starting out on the low end, right? Like it's actually increasing. So that's also a sign, right, that more inventory is going to start to build because things in general are taking a little bit longer to sell. Another indicator that, things are cooling off just a little bit is the sold to ask ratio. Now, what this means is at what percentage of the asking price are homes selling for. So the higher the number, the hotter the market. And you can see it came out in January higher again versus all of the other months. But you can see now it was starting to decline here. So now we're in the mix of some previous years. We're lower than we were in 24. So that just means that there's not as many homes selling for over asking. Sellers are having to negotiate a little bit more off of their homes asking prices, so on and so forth. So that just, again, indicates a little bit of a cooling off of the marketplace, which is a good thing. So I don't want to steal, well, let's get right into mortgages. I'm going to bring none other than Amy Green, my sister. For those of you who don't know her, she works with Quintessential Mortgage Group. Amy, welcome to the discussion. Let's get in and talk about mortgages.
And I just want to pick up basically on where we left off last month. So the last month's meeting was on March 12th. So since that last meeting, rates have ticked up slightly. And as you know, and I'm sure you're all aware, there's been a lot of volatility in the markets. I'm going to show you some charts just to show you what it looked like so you can get a visual. But as of today, we don't have the CPI inflation reading. That comes out tomorrow. So that'll be big news tomorrow. And just to recap a little bit from last month to this month, the 30-year fixed is now floating in the high sixes, low sevens. March 12th, on average, it was about 6.79. So like I said, it's ticked up slightly. Jumbo rates, low sevens, 30-year FHA, low six, VA, low six, 15-year fixed, also still in the low sixes. So I hope that gives you a little bit of good information. Just one other note, on Friday the 4th, Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell spoke, and his message overall is that he's talking about taking a cautious approach in response to the new tariffs and their potential economic impacts. So he's, as usual, waiting and seeing the data come in and adjusting accordingly. This is since our last meeting right here, March 12th. So you can see the volatility that's going on. However, you can also see, I mean, it hasn't changed that much since our last meeting, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Can you guys see that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Also, to put into perspective the past 5 years, I have this chart here. So,
Yeah.
not much. I mean, there's nothing major happening, so I don't want anybody to panic. It'll all play itself out. And then one more thing I wanted to share is a $356,000 mortgage locked at 6.875. The principal and interest is $23.40 a month. If you lock the same loan amount at 7.125, it's $2,400 a month, principal and interest. Difference of being of $60. So I just want to give you guys that perspective so that nobody's panicking and worrying and
Mhm.
all that stuff. So I hope that helps.
That's excellent, actually, because I think what is most important right now is for people to, especially in our industry as agents, we want to stay calm. We just want to make sure that we're giving good advice, that our clients understand what the facts are of the situation. There's a lot of, politics, no matter what side you're on, right? There's people trying to gaslight you and get you scared because that makes you watch more TV or whatever they're talking about. So sometimes the best thing is just to tune it out and stay focused on what the facts are and stay calm and stay steady, because at the end of the day, people need us to help them make moves, right? Which is a huge transaction in their life, and a very important one that they need trusted counselors like us to do a good job for them. So, all right. Well, thanks everybody for joining us for this month's housing market update. Amy, thanks for your presentation. We'll see you again next month. I look forward to it. And for all of us service professionals, it's April, baby. Let's go get it. This is our season. It's the peak. You're going to get a lot of your files and transactions rolling right now. So you got to go after it. Bring the energy. See you guys.